Hello, Teacher Preston here with another video. So today we're going to go into sort of understanding what we're reading more. So I'm going to start with reading the first page of the first chapter of the book, The Hobbit, classic book, by the way. Let's get into it. So I'm just going to put my share button and then just go there and then, okay, let me just open this and we can begin. So, in a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit, not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. It had a perfectly round door like a portal, painted green with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. The door opened onto the tube to a tube-shaped hall like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel, without smoke, with paneled walls and floors tiled and carpeted, provided with polished chairs and lots of pegs for hats and coats. The hobbit was very fond of visitors. The tunnel wound on and on. The tunnel wound on and on, going fairly but not quite straight into the side of the hill. The hill, as all the people for many miles around called it, and many little round doors opened out of it. First two on one side, then on another, no going upstairs for a hobbit. Bedrooms, bathrooms, cellars, pantries, lots of these. Wardrobes, he had whole rooms devoted to clothes. Kitchens, dining rooms, all were on the same floor, and indeed on the same passage. The best rooms were all on the left-hand side, going in, for these were the only ones to have windows, deep-set, round windows, looking over his garden and meadows beyond, sloping down to the river. The hobbit was a very well-to-do hobbit, and his name was Baggins. The Bagginses had lived in the neighborhood of the hill for time out of mind, and people considered them very respectable, not only because they were rich, but also because they never had any adventures or did anything unexpected. You could tell what a Baggins would say on any question without the bother of asking him. This is a story of how a Baggins had an adventure and found himself doing and saying things altogether unexpected. He may have lost his neighbor's respect, but he gained, well, you'll see what, just move this, whether he gained anything in the end. Okay, so let's get into it. What does it mean? So, in the hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. So, hole, so it's talking about his home, not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms or oozy smell. So, here, Tolkien's doing a very interesting thing. He's giving comparison, and contrast. So he's starting with the bad stuff. So not dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms or oozy. So oozy, the sort of type of smell that you get in a sewer, that kind of smell. Nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down or to eat. So also it wasn't dry, it wasn't bare, there wasn't anything, not that there wasn't that there wasn't anything to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. So he's using this introduction as a way to sort of set the tone of the story. So starting, a lot of authors will start with describing the worst or not so nice aspects of a place, and then move on to using those to show how nice a place is. It was a perfectly, and that means comfort. So from that we know that the tunnel was comfortable. It had a perfectly round door like a portal, painted green with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. So perfectly round door. So portal is the window on a ship, which is perfectly round. So we can see in our mind's eye that the door that they're talking about is perfectly round, it's green, and it had a shiny brass knob. So knob means a handle, but that's round. So a normal door handle, you move it like this, where a brass knob has a rounded end that you can turn. In the exact, so when we hear exact middle, we know that it's in the center. So not in the middle, roughly, exact. So this is another way of how he uses words to keep the reader hooked. Okay. The door opened onto a tube-shaped hall like a tunnel. So tube-shaped, so like a tube shaped hole. So hall like the entranceway, I guess, of a house. Tube-shaped hall like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel. So again, comfortable, he uses comfortable again. Tunnel without smoke. So when we think of older homes, we think of sort of fires, chimneys, could be smoke, but this didn't have smoke. With paneled walls. So what does that mean? Paneled walls means that they had panels. They weren't tiled. So usually they use pieces of wood and plank to panel the walls. So it's what you get in like log homes as well. So they use logs, and then they'll do insulation, and then in older log homes they'll put panels. Where was I? Actually, let me use my pointer here. So paneled walls and floors tiled and carpeted. So floors had tiles and they were carpeted. There were carpets as well. Provided with polished chairs. So the chairs were polished. So when he says polished, already we can get that sense of it, the smell. So when you think of polished chairs, you think of the smell of them. Really, really sort of capturing it in the mind's eye here. And lots of pegs for hats and coats. So peg means a place. So in the older sort of, in your entrance hall in house, you'll have pegs to hang up your coats and that. Okay. The Hobbit was fond of visitors. So we can see that this is all sort of leading up, because he'd like to have visitors, because he had a very comfortable hobbit hole, I guess. So the tunnel wound on and on, going fairly but not quite straight into the side of the hill. So wound, when he says wound, it gives us the feeling that it's sort of like a snake. It snaked into the side of the hill, not quite straight. So I guess something like this. The hill, as all the people from many miles around called it. So he used the word hill, but he was using the word hill as a sort of intro, as a way to introduce the name of it. And many little round doors opened out of it. So by many little round doors opened out of it, we can see that it's not just Bilbo that lives in the hill, is that many hobbits live in the hill, because he says let me find it, many little round doors opened out of it, first on one side and then on another. So basically the hill was covered with little round doors, so a lot of people lived there. No going upstairs for hobbit. So no going upstairs. When we see this, we know that it's all on one level. Bedrooms, bathrooms, cellars, pantries. So pantries is an English word, older English word. We use it now as well, meaning, sorry, just needed some tea there, meaning a room that is either part of your kitchen, so connected to your kitchen, or in some countries like Russia can be underneath your kitchen, where you keep your food. So usually dry food, so rice, potatoes, flour. In some places, people also keep their brandy or extra plates, knives, forks, but usually dry goods. So that's what we use a pantry for. And cellars, sorry, I forgot that. Cellars means a place where we can keep alcohol, usually wine, but can be brandy or whiskey. Usually it's also underground as well. Wardrobes, he had whole rooms devoted to clothes. So wardrobes, cupboards where we keep our clothes, but he's saying when he uses the brackets like this, so emphasizing that he had whole rooms devoted to clothes, kitchens, dining rooms, all were on the same floor again. So he said, no going upstairs for the hobbit, all were on the same floor. He's sort of emphasizing that everything was on one level. And indeed on the same passage. So now we know that it's on the same floor, but also it was all leading off one passage. The best rooms were on the left-hand side going in. So when we close our eyes and we listen to the story, the best rooms were on the left-hand side. Okay, left going in as we go in to the tunnel. Well, the hobbit hole, I should say. For these were the only ones with windows, deep set, round windows looking over his garden. So we can sort of picture ourselves looking outside of these deep set round windows, looking over his garden, so we can see his garden and the meadows beyond sloping down to the river. So when he's given us the complete picture of the inside, but he's making us view the world from the hobbit hole. So that's why he's saying, looking over his garden and meadows beyond, so we can see the meadows with the cows grazing in the distance, sloping down to the river. So because it's a hill, it's at a sort of angle. So that's why he's saying sloping down to the river. This hobbit was a very well-to-do hobbit. So well-to-do is sort of British English phrase saying sort of respectable, fairly wealthy, well-to-do. It's a sort of older English way of saying it, but it's still used today. And his name was Baggins. So the Baggins lived in the neighborhood of the hill for time out of mind. So that sentence, the Bagginses lived in the hill for time out of mind, means that they'd been there forever, basically, time out of mind, so that nobody could remember when they'd arrived there. And people considered them very respectable. So well-to-do, respectable. So respectable means sort of upstanding, I guess, wealthy, don't cause any trouble, sort of quiet. Not only because most of them were rich, okay, here he explains his point, but also because they never had any adventures or did anything unexpected. So here he's sort of starting with because they don't have any adventures. So adventures also meaning sort of getting up to mischief. They were very sort of quiet people. They just lived their lives. I guess live and let live. And they didn't do anything unexpected. So everybody knew what they were doing normally. You could tell what the Baggins would say on any question without the bother of asking him. So here he's sort of saying that they were predictable because they always did the same things. So we could say like Bilbo always had eggs and bacon on Wednesdays, something like that. So predictable. This is the story of a Baggins that had an adventure and found himself doing and saying things altogether unexpected. So here he sort of also sort of giving a bit of a way of how we're going to see that Bilbo will have an adventure and say and do things that he didn't expect he'd do. He may, so just let me move this out of the way quickly. Okay. He may have lost his neighbor's respect, but he gained, well, you'll see what he gained in the end, whether he gained anything in the end. So that way, sort of leaving it a bit open-ended. So let's just see how this turns out, basically. You'll see. So he's leaving by saying, well, you will see. So he's leaving the decision of whether anything happens up to the reader. So anyway, there we go. So just let me go back. So stop sharing. Okay, thank you for joining me for this lesson. Have a great day and see you in my next lesson. Bye.